So, welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank Podcast. I'm here with Mr. Tyler Marriner.
Thank you for having me. What's up, man?
Tyler, we go way, way back.
Yes, we go back to those uncomfortable middle school days.
Oh, yeah, where puberty is just coming out and you're just figuring out. Like, you have 1 foot in and then 1 foot out the door, I would say.
Oh, yeah. You can pull up some of my old, nice middle school pictures. Those aren't really that great, though.
Do you ever look back at, like, your Facebook photos? Like, I just had one that said, like, from 9 years ago, and it was me taking a selfie in a mirror. And I was like, I remember I thought I was hot shit. Like, that was everybody was doing that. Like, you get so much anxiety now if it doesn't have duck lips or if you're not on a boat.
I think I just had one pop up from, remember when we all went to Jolly Rogers water park? It was like the school trip or whatever.
No, because that was the one I had to get left back on because I was not the best student.
Oh, yes. I remember going back now. Yeah, we talked about that. But I had one pop up from there. Oh my God, that was a nice photo. Ooh.
You know who I kind of had a crush on? I'm not gonna lie, but she probably doesn't even have the same last name anymore. Dude, Miss Meddy.
Oh, yes.
I've mentioned her so many times, so like that's the reason why I learned history class. Like I don't know about anybody else, but I don't know what it was. It was just she was hot. She was tall too.
Hey, man, makes you learn history.
Well, Tyler, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, man, or for the audience at least?
All right, what's up, guys? My name is Tyler Marriner. I am 23 years old. I just graduated from Towson University. I got my degree in accounting. I now found a nice job up in New Jersey. I moved in with my girlfriend, and so working as a cost accountant over in First Priority. And I am actually, and this is going to be news for you too, I'm expecting twins.
Holy shit. See, that's what happens when your dad's from England.
Yes.
I see. I mentioned this is where people would know you from is I had a buddy that I always say in the podcast, if somebody brings something up, like if I podcast someone from the UK saying, oh yeah, my buddy's dad was from England. And it was crazy because he's like old school style, like smoking cigarettes in the house. And, it was like, and he was critical when he talked too. He kind of just laid it out flat, no sugarcoating anything, which was interesting. But damn, how did you not go the fitness route with accounting? Like, how did you do that major shift, dude?
So I think the big thing for me is I did want to be more homebody. So this allows me to kind of have my nice 9 to 5, nice 8:30 to 4:30, I should say. But so now I actually get to work out on the side. So I have been doing CrossFit and Olympic lifting, and I still do compete in that. And things are tough right now with everything going on. So I actually haven't been doing any of that currently, but I've still been training every day. So I've still been competing, and I'm getting ready to actually go and hopefully total again at the end of the year for Olympic lifting. So.
I think when I signed up for my gym membership, I mean, I'm gone every day for 8 years, haven't missed one day.
Yep.
I've taken those rest days. But like when I first started working out and started taking it kind of serious a little bit, it's like the night I told you spent the night at my house, and I was like, yeah, I got my gym membership. You're like, dude, we got to work out. And I was like, it's like our first year or something. And you're like, yeah, let's take some pre-workout. And you were timing that shit. You were like, all right, it's going to take us 30 minutes to get from your house to the gym. So we got to take it right now. So by the time we get to the gym, we're ready to go. And then we're hitting like every red light and you're just yelling at me like, go through it. We're going to miss the window. I was like, what window?
That shit hit you though, didn't it?
Not really. For pre-workout for me just doesn't hit me. What really hit me, I would say, is like I always tell people if you go to like Chipotle, the reason why I don't like them so much is because they make like you feel like a dick kind of picking the food you want them to put on your sandwich. So I'm like, leave the trust in their hands. And that all was inspired from you when you worked at Wawa. You were like, I was like, dude, just make me something that you know is good because you knew what was good that was out there on the selection to choose from.
Yep.
And then the one day you didn't work, I got a chicken cheesesteak, I think, and it literally soaked through the wrapper and soaked into my shorts, and I had chicken sweat or whatever it is all over my nuts.
I remember that. I remember you texting me about that.
You were in the car with me. What do you mean texting you?
Well, we talked about it past, but I remember you got in there and you opened it up on your lap, and you're like, yep.
Yeah, because it's Wawa Hoagie Fest. Like I would only get it when you were there because you would just load me up. I'd be like, can I just get a regular cheesesteak? You're like, sure. And you like just to where the sandwich wouldn't close so you knew you were loved.
Yes. I made sure I give you the extra meat, the extra cheese, anything you wanted on there, my man.
What inspired like the weightlifting to start though? Because I mean, when that first started, you had a really bad shoulder injury from wrestling. Like you severed one of your tendons.
Yeah, I that was back in I guess sophomore year. It was actually it was March 1st, and I had a wrestling meet. And what happened was, going back on that, I got into a headlock. The guy threw me, and I landed on my shoulder weird. And what happened is I actually tore my shoulder. That happened was this part of my shoulder went down, and my collarbone and everything went here, went up. So it pulled all the tendons in my shoulder actually. So I guess coming out of that, I was about 152 pounds by the time like the 3 or 4 months was up, not being able to really move or walk or do anything. I was 172 pounds, and I was like, all right, well, something's got to change here. I guess from that moment on, I was working out with my stepbrother, like currently at the time, and I was like, you know what, I can lose this weight, I can be doing whatever I want. My mom signed me up. She was like, well, we're not doing any more contact sports for you, and I was like, I can understand that. And so I started doing cross country, as you know. I did that for 2 years, did cross country and indoor track, and kind of did that and went to college. And I was like, like I love running and everything like that, but I have kind of the stocky build. I'm not really built for long distance running. I don't have the long legs. So I started working out more, and I knew that I could outlift a lot of people when I could squat heavy and I could do everything that I wanted to do. And I was like, well, if I actually like sat down and focused on this, it'd be an interesting way to find out what I can do. And I guess that was kind of more of the shift.
I mostly worked out just for the aesthetic appeal, like still kind of just maintaining the same, being strong and everything, but on the factor of like, I just never was about getting bulky and more cared about the six pack. But like, I saw you, like you started up your own fitness page and everything. I was like,
Yep.
why did you not go the route of a personal trainer? Like you have an amazing story on the aspect of you ripped your shoulder, like, or that tendon in there. And then like that whole thing, you said you gained like 20 something pounds and then had to start lifting. You know how many people out there had gained what they called COVID weight? And they're like, I don't know
Yep.
if I can get back to myself. It's like this, like you could easily coach some people.
Yeah, I like doing that. And I do that more so for friends and everything. And I actually do have my, I'm actually a certified personal trainer, and I have my CrossFit Level 1 coaching license. So
Okay.
I am certified to
Why
do that.
you
But
got you got to enlighten me on the CrossFit thing, because for me being just the average gym guy, gym rat, whatever you want to call it, CrossFit has always been seen as like the stereotypical CrossFitter.
oh yeah, no, I love those pictures. This picture are fantastic. Uh, no, I think CrossFit for me it was something me and my stepbrother talked about. He was kind of into it at the time, and he was like, hey, like this is a great way for you to kind of like stay in shape, because I knew when I was lifting, I would just kind of go in, and if I didn't do cardio or whatever, and I kind of always dreaded doing that cardio piece, like that I was just going to gain weight. That's just how my body type's always been. So he was like, hey, check out CrossFit. I think you might actually enjoy it. So I started doing CrossFit classes, and I was like, I went in the first day, and they were like, hey, you're going to do 30 thrusters for time, which is pretty much you grab a barbell, put it on your shoulder, you squat down, stand up, and go to full extension. And I was like, you know what, that's easy. I've been doing 135 pounds. I can shoulder press this for reps. Like, let's go. I did about 5, and I was like, holy shit. My cardio is like nowhere near what it used to be. Kind of getting my ass handed to me. It's a whole different like playing field. It just kind of everything you kind of expect from different areas of fitness kind of just rolled into one sport. So
Well, I always talk about like, I mean, I started noticing it, especially going back to the routines and everything, was kind of like, wow, like I understand why people do yoga, I understand why people do CrossFit, I understand why people do steel mace training. Shout out to
yep,
my buddy Fred, who does a podcast on the functionality of the steel mace. Because once you start noticing, it's like snowboarding. You're using muscles you've really never used before, but at the same time, you can travel anywhere. Like the factor is, when you're weightlifting or something, you're confined to the gym. It's the same location. I saw the same
yep.
place every day for 8 years straight. And then I look at it like, man, like you can't spend all your time in there. This is all your memories are going to be of just grabbing a weight and doing this. So I'm like, how can we switch that? And that's where you see people take kettlebells out onto the beach. They try and do a more
Yep.
functionality type of strength. I mean, that's what CrossFit kind of is.
Yeah, I think that was about like one of my favorite things I love about CrossFit. Like, I back when I used to just like power lift, like just a routine. You kind of went in Monday, did your chest day. You came in the next day, you would do back or legs, do arms on Wednesday, and you kind of went through that cycle. And I think with CrossFit, you kind of just walk in, you look at the whiteboard, and you're like, well, fuck me, this is gonna hurt today. You don't
Yeah.
know what it's gonna be. It can be anything. I might walk in one day and it might be like, all right, we're gonna do some benching, and then we're gonna do this whole nice workout. It might be like handstand walks, ring muscle ups, like some other like crazy shit on there, and I'm just like, all right, this is some cool stuff now.
When you were powerlifting, did you ever get into the realm of smelling salts? Because I did not know what that was until recently.
I did not. I knew people who do use smelling salts. One of my really good friends actually. He is like actually looking into powerlifting competitions because he is, I mean, God, he is strong. But he does smelling salts sometimes, and I've looked into it, but never into that extent of actually trying it because I was always like, I have no idea what the effects are on my body. I don't know if I really want to be inhaling this and seeing what the effects are like 5 years later. You
So
know?
I work at a gym now, and I came
Okay.
across this little flask like bottle, and I was like, "What's this?" And it had the same look of like the thing from Anchorman, Sex Panther, like the cologne. It
Yes.
had a giant like like I guess stickered up like kind of graphic design of a panther on it, and he's like shooting out flames out of his mouth, and I'm like, well, this seems interesting. I wonder if it's a drink. And I pick it up and it's heavy. And I'm like, okay, this definitely isn't a liquid. It's a solid in here. And there's like a little sticky note on the top of it before I go to unscrew it off. And it says, do not sniff this like I did. LOL. And I was like, okay, well, now I have to sniff it. So I
Exactly.
open it up and I see like this stuff you would put on like the front of your steps or something, little salts. And I'm like, whoa. And I go and I get my nose. I mean, not even a
Ooh.
couple inches away, and it was like a shotgun to my fucking brain. I swear to God, like I went back, my head, like all eyes looked like I was smoking crack, like my eyes were just completely like forced open, and I like pulled it back, set it down, and
Yeah.
dude, I was amped. Like if I would have saw a woman in the street get hit by a car, I could have lifted it off of her. I was like, I can see why powerlifters do this, but I'm like, that has to be so bad for your brain. Like, you ever smell a bad smell and sit there, smell it, and it's like, oh, but then you smell it again, oh, and then you
Yep.
smell it one more time, and you're like, that can't be good for you.
Yeah. There's no way. And I think if you look at all the things, like I've listened to other podcasts too, and like one of the guys he brings on medical professionals, kind of in the athletic fitness realm, and they talk about that kind of stuff, where like smelling salts, but we don't really have enough information on that. The only thing that people and doctors will recommend for anybody to use, and they'll recommend this for everybody, is creatine to hydrate your muscles. It's the only one that actually can use. They've always talked bad on pre-workout. I still use it, but
Yeah.
might knock a few years off my life, but then be fine.
Hey, if you can lift more, right?
Yeah, I'm not gonna be lifting when I'm 70.
Now, what would you say is like just being involved in the gym life a little bit too? What would you say would be like, I guess, the thing you hate the most about it? Because I feel like it's the environment sometimes. Is like it's really not
Yeah,
set out to be comfortable for new goers at all. Like it's like you've seen the nature documentaries. Here we have the power lifter, and there's the power lifter screams and beats his
yep.
chest in agony. It's like, oh my God, it's like it's all true.
It really is. And I think that is, especially for new members, I think that can be kind of intimidating. Going to these gyms and you see these people, and a lot of people that are going to be new aren't experienced lifters. They're kind of just trying it out for the first time. You see these guys and they're like benching 405 and yelling and screaming, and like you're sitting there on their squat rack and they're trying to go do some curls in it, and you're like, do I just leave? Like, this guy might eat me, kind of thing.
I
And you don't
saw.
want to be the guy doing that. You don't want to be squatting in the curl rack.
I mentioned the guy that he did probably total of 10 pull-ups, and then he sat down and opened up a steak and started eating it. And he had the waist of a Coke can. Like, I mean, the skinniest thing with the biggest lats I'd ever seen. And I'm like sitting there working out. I'm like, dude, how? And he goes, look at me. What do you think? And I'm like, I don't get it. He goes, I'm doing steroids. I'm like, oh, and then I had that like shift
Okay.
in my head a little bit, which like I know kind of, I wonder if it ran through your mind at any point, but like you get to a point where you plateau, you're not seeing any gains, you're not seeing any losses, and you want to take it to the next level. But you're like, I was afraid to take steroids on the fact of like, not with the dick, but with the aspect of imagine taking it, getting to an extremely ripped level that is above natural, and then suddenly stop taking it and watch it all shift back and know you can never get to that level again. It's like once your mind sees that your alpha or your prime position in life, and then everything down there, you always think about that prime position. I'm like, but if I do
Yep.
that without being natural, I'll always think of like, I can't get there. I can't get, and then it causes depression. Like for you, for instance, when you're lifting and then you stop for a while and then seeing that whole shift, how hard of like a mind fuck was that to climb back to it?
That's always like kind of the interesting point, because you always have like those people that will do that. They'll take like human growth hormones or they'll do steroids or something like that, and you watch them and you're like, oh well, like these guys can lift a lot and they can kind of get to whatever level they want to be at just by, kind of, as I put it, it's cheating. Like, these guys are insanely strong, and I'll give them credit. Like, they deserve to be able to do what they do. But for me personally, it was always cheating. And there were multiple times back when, like, in college, but at the point I was doing the ROTC, so I was in the military, so I would go away during the summer for a month at a time. And we didn't do anything there. You kind of just went through your normal daily thing. You didn't work out. Like, we ran a little bit, maybe did some push-ups, but you come back to it and you're like, well, I left like being able to bench like 350. Now I'm hitting like 280 and I'm struggling. And you're kind of sitting there and you're like, well, I guess I got some work I need to put in. It's definitely a discouragement to like kind of see you and be like, wow, like I used to be so strong. But I think getting back into it's like, well, now like let's see where I can push it to next time. I know I can hit 350. Let me get back to 350 and I'll go to 360.
I
So
never
it's
like
always just kind of that mindset.
if you really try to explain that to like somebody who's young and things like for me, before COVID would have, hit or something, if you would have told me I would have missed a day at the gym, I would have laughed in your face. And
Oh yeah.
I never really did. I still had the key to my gym. I'd go there and it
Mm.
was like sneak working out, which was so weird to me, which was like, I need this because it's a very, like, it keeps the demons away, I would say. But then you start to realize, like, dude, all the people that told me, like, you got to learn to live, you got to learn to, enjoy a little bit of this, enjoy a little bit of that. It doesn't need to be cans of tuna every day. It's like, as a soon to be father, like,
Yep.
you are, when you switched over to accounting, how hard was it to fix that struggle of like, wow, I don't need to worry about being, benching 350. I could just normally go in there, do a couple reps, get, that flow in there, maybe a 30-40 minute workout and leave.
I mean, for me personally, still, it's kind of like that is what I want to do. I do want to go in every day and kind of hit like PRs and like put up these numbers. But and I think the big thing is now that like I've been doing lifting, like I do have a coach that actually like makes my programming for me, and he'll put those weeks in where it's like, all right, you're not going to be doing much. This is going to be your week where you're kind of just relaxing. And I'll look at him, I'm like, well, like like I want to be going in, I want to be doing all this crazy stuff that I see everybody doing. He was like, and it kind of brings you back because like working out and fitness isn't just a straight steady incline. It might be like that for a little bit, as but you get those plateaus and you kind of need to like be able to take those nice breaks and like those rest weeks and stuff like that, and kind of be able to kind of watch your body and allow you to rest up. It's your body. Like, you can't run a car 24/7 and expect it to keep going for as long as the car that kind of gets worked on. Like, things have to change, and you have to kind of adjust your diet and the way you are to the body that you have. I mean, you can't expect somebody that's never worked out to go in and work out 6 days a week, because they're not going to be able to do that. It's kind of where you are as an athlete and kind of your athletic ability and like your background, whatever you have, medical conditions. Like, you need to be able to kind of understand that and know your own body and be able to adjust it. I mean, I still take rest weeks, and I still take those days off that I need to kind of help my programming, because we do 12-week shifts in the schedules. So I do 12 weeks and I take like a whole week off, and I work out. So my schedule usually is like Monday through Thursdays can be hard work. Fridays I take off, and then Saturday, and then Sunday is off as well. But Saturday is kind of that, like, I'm going to go in and it's going to be like an insane number of weight, and I'm going to kind of do a bunch of volume, and then I get Sunday off and then it starts up again. But I think the whole thing is kind of just however you can do it and all that.
Well, once you start adapting your own ways for it, it's like I started to notice like eating times and stuff. Like, people are like, why do you need to eat right
Yep.
now? It's like, you don't understand. Like, it's not about eating to get gains. It's like your body just starts to program to get hungry at that certain time. Like, it
Yep.
could be 11:01, and if your eating time's like 11:05, it's like as soon as it hits 11:04, you're like, I'm still full. Then it's 11:05, you're like, I'm fucking hungry. Like, I would walk into
Yep.
GNC and I was gonna purchase some protein powders, and the guy just, like, his watch goes off. He just pulls out a thing of chicken and rice and starts eating it. I'm like, what? Like,
Yep. Those are the people.
but like,
I think,
no. Oh, go
you
ahead.
keep going. Sorry.
Well, I was
I'll let
like,
you go first.
nobody in the world would understand that unless they started lifting and actually started getting on like a program like that. Like, it's like
Yep.
checking your phone first thing in the morning.
Yep. The human body loves routines. And that's kind of the thing. Like, the human body and like our mind loves being in that pattern. We love patterns and routines. And I think getting into that mindset and the fixtures, especially with like everybody doing keto and intermittent fasting, like, personally, I think intermittent fasting is the one thing that's worked best for me. I mean, there's not a lot of science on it, and like people are still studying how it affects the body.
It's
But
fucking hard. That's what it
it is
is.
hard.
Holy
But I
shit.
think once you get past that like first 3 days where you're like, all right, like I don't eat for 16 or 18 hours, and then I can eat for 6 to 8 hours, kind of thing, depending on what you want to do. I know people who fast for like 2 days. I can't do that.
See, I can do it if I go to sleep, but I remember like I had to do blood work and they're like, you need to fast for these certain blood tests that you need to take. And I was like, okay. I was like, so how long? They're like 12 hours. I was like, oh my God. And it was like 5 p.m. I was like, I haven't had dinner. I was like, all right.
Yep.
So then we went like, 4 a.m. As soon as that thing opened up for blood work, I was right there in there. I was like, let's go take the blood out. I'm going to crack open a freaking taquito in the car. You just watch. But like I had to do another
Yep.
test where they had to bucket every single little urine thing you had.
Hmm.
And I pee a lot. So I was like, they gave me this small bucket. I was like, you got anything else? She was like, you're gonna fill that in one night. I was like, yeah. So she gave me 3 of them. I filled all 3, and then we had to go get another container. I was like, I don't know what it is. Liquids when it comes to water, Pepsi, anything. Freaking, I need to be. I like drinking. I
Yep.
mean, that's a good way to get over the whole factor of eating too. Like it curbs the hunger if you have like a coffee or something. Like you learn these little tips and tricks.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as long as you're being hydrated, I think it's always good. Like, there's never a problem with being overhydrated. I mean, you don't want to be overhydrated because that is an issue. You don't want to be overhydration. That can actually like really mess with your organs. But if you're hydrated and you're actually drinking a normal amount, more than like about a gallon a day, that's perfect. I think there's not people. A lot of people don't drink enough, and that's why people have these issues. But I wonder what this lady's face looked like when you asked for more buckets. I can only imagine
She
the
was
sheer horror.
she was astonished, which really is crazy. She's like, I have like very protruding veins on my arms, and
Mm,
she missed like 6 times. And I was like, do you need help? And like, you're hungry, you're fasting. So it's like, I will kill you if you miss one more time. And she's like shaking
yep.
and shit. And I'm like, look, I'll do it myself. And then we can get through this. Like I was at the hangry stage. And I think that's the only time I really ever got angry before. But I have a really, really important question to ask.
Yes.
When did the shift from doing all this and you decide to move to a whole other state and go into the realm of accounting? How did that happen?
It was kind of just one of those things where I kind of sat down and I kind of reflected on everything that happened. And I think, especially in high school, my big issue with like doing like a desk job was like, like I can't be active. Like I'm gonna be sitting down all day. Like I won't be able to work out and do everything that I wanted to do. And I think kind of in that time, I was getting ready to start my internship and everything. And I kind of just looked around and I was like, you know what, like maybe like I just really overthought what I want to do in the army, and I don't want to be traveling all the time. And I want to have some stable location. And I can work out still, and I think that was a big factor for me. Is just actually being able to like think it through. And I was 16 or 17 when I made my decision. I'm older now, and I think I really did mature through going through college and everything like that. And it was a hard decision. I really had to think about it, but after I consulted multiple people and I talked with like my parents and everybody else, I think it was a big thing that like as long as I'm happy and doing what I'm doing, I can never be disappointed with that.
When did you get the news that you were going to be a dad?
This happened the weekend or the week before July 4th. It happened on the Tuesday before, so relatively new. I've known for about a month now.
So are you excited? Or are you nervous?
Both for sure.
Both. Well, I mean, dude, you're definitely gonna be a good dad. I mean, from all the times we've hung out, you were always seem like the caring figure a little bit too. Not
I
to
appreciate that.
not to give you too many compliments here, but that even with a what do you call it? Oh man, a sling on your arm. You were still like, hey, do you need this? Do you need that? Do you need that? I felt like I was. It's like when you're at a guest at somebody's house for the very first time. It's like they're your butler basically. They're giving you
Yeah.
everything. You were like that the whole entire time. Every time I came over, you need something. Hey, you want to watch this? You want to learn this? And I mean, we just spent all hours of the night playing Call of Duty,
Yep.
freaking watching. I was whooping your ass, even though you had a sling on your arm, so technically you were handicapped.
Oh, we'll have to run that back soon.
I'll have to run that back. Well, I mean, what is there anything like you feel like you might have left out on a little bit?
With the whole switching careers kind of thing.
Yeah, well, just I mean, in life, you ever feel like you took a road or something that you didn't think would go, and then you might have looked back like, should have dived into that.
Like I think looking back, I did want to like kind of delve into like I've always kind of went with the flow, and I think I really should have taken more time to actually like research and do things. Like I could have been getting my personal training license years ago, and I could have been doing things like this, and I kind of more just took everything for granted all my time, and I would either spend it at the gym or I was trying to hang out with people or do this. And I think some of the times I really should have just, taken some more time to actually think about things and rather just kind of live in the moment. And I really didn't plan for the future as much as when we were in high school. I kind of was just like, you know what, I'm doing ROTC. I'll get to college when I get to college. And I kind of just skate through it and get into the military kind of thing. And I never really like looked at the other opportunities in life. And I think going back, that would be the thing that would change the most.
I think that's just the crazy part about Ocean City, though. Like, it's seen as a beach resort, but like everybody's just floating along, doing something to keep them going to the next day and the next
Yep.
day. And it's like, and your next time you're like 24, 25, and you're like, holy shit, like I don't have a career. I'm still doing something that, is not going to get me really anywhere. And it's like, you
Yep.
saw some of the kids take off and go to school, and then like people like me that are just like floating through, like, what is the goal? What is the path?
Yeah, exactly. I think that is the problem with like Ocean City. And, and there have been like moments in time where I've actually really thought about it. Like I had a kid when I went to high school with. He actually he was going to go to UMD for a soccer scholarship, and actually on the night of prom he got into DUI and he died. That was kind of one of those moments where it was like, I didn't really like actually take the time to really appreciate life back then and kind of appreciate like everything that I could be doing. But this kid he had a lot of things going for him. Like he wasn't a bad kid. And, it was just kind of that one decision that kind of changed his life. Like he drank and then he wanted to get in his car and drive with no supervision. And he got into an accident and passed away. And, it's kind of just, there's little things in life that you kind of just take for granted. You never know when it's going to come.
Well, even when like we talk about like things that you don't take for granted, what's one thing you don't take for granted anymore?
Uh, Definitely my relationships with people. You know, it's always been kind of the thing that I've always kind of tried to like pride myself in is having good relationships. And I think even looking back, kind of in high school, there was definitely times where I could have been nicer to people, or could have even tried to help out more. And
Didn't
just
have to
took
fight
the
not Dylan Jolly. It was Dylan Bradford. You hit
Dylan
Bradford.
Bradford. Yeah, we had that fight in middle school, and and I think that was a funny time too because we had that fight and that was like the whole thing. But then we went down to the principal's office. We're sitting in there and we're like, yeah, there really is no bad blood. And we talked that out. And we're sitting in was it ISS or whatever in school suspension.
Yeah.
Me and him are literally just sitting there and we're talking and laughing and everything like that. And just like those little things kind of like blow out of proportion. And I think that is a big thing to like take a step back and actually evaluate what's going on rather than be in that moment.
What amazes me is like how much you think that you're going to come in contact with all these people every single day for the rest of your life because of how like it just evolved in school you are around these people, and you never see any of them basically ever. Like
Yeah.
this is how communication ends up, where you're still trying to connect with people, like send them out, oh, happy birthday, man, like hope you're doing okay, and then it's like, yeah, I'm doing great, man, definitely talk soon, and then it's like the next year, happy birthday again. It's like it's so hard. I get because like you grow up and life turns into this thing, but it's like you start to realize all the petty bullshit that like used to happen in school. Like even,
Yep.
I was a chunky kid in school. It's the whole reason why I went to the fitness route. And then next thing you know, like I had the people that were making fun of me in school messaging me asking how to get a six pack. And I'm like, you just got to do it. I mean, you got to get
Yeah.
up and go for it if you want it.
I think that was both of us. We were both kind of chunky back in middle school. And I think looking at both of us now, it's kind of astonishing to see where we're actually at.
I think
Like
it's
you would not have pinned those guys
yeah, I
in middle
think
school.
it's because the pool of a bacon, egg, and cheese McMuffin was just too damn good.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. And, I definitely enjoyed a Coke or a 12-pack of Coke every now and then.
Okay, if you had $1 million, what would you do?
I think now after doing everything I've been doing, I would honestly invest it. I'd invest most of it. I might get some things to actually be like a luxury, but now like in life, I think if you went back like years ago, I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna get a house and a car, and I'm gonna spend it all kind of thing. But now it's kind of like, I might take some of it down, put it down on a nicer car, but I would definitely take most of it and kind of invest it and kind of leave that, kind of separate the funds out though. I'd have like a nice college fund for my kids and kind of have some other stuff growing so I can kind of get like a nice house eventually. But I kind of would take a step back and not really go crazy like I would have back in the day.
Most people that are being recorded would have been like, I want to donate it to charity. But I love your answer.
I think that is a great answer, but like I think you kind of have to be in that point first in your life where you can kind of be financially stable before you can kind of start giving back. And I do think giving back is kind of a big thing. I don't know if you ever watched Arnold's six tips of success or six secrets to success video.
No, but I saw the Ronnie Coleman Joe Rogan podcast that completely changed my life. That I had to watch his documentary, and I think I finally understand what, like somebody that understands something that I think all the time.
All right, so that's gonna be the one thing I give you after our podcast is over. Go look up. It's like a 4-minute video, and I think it was the last thing he puts. It's just rule number 6 is keep giving back. You know, keep giving back to your community, to the family and friends, and kind of because we can't really grow as a community unless we kind of each individually take our part to grow. So I think it is kind of a big thing, but I think you do have to be in that position to actually be able to give back to the community.
I look at like how people donate now, and it's like a lot of it's just for attention. You know what I mean? Like a
It
lot
is.
of it's like I always don't like when you go to Home Goods or you go to Ross or something, and like, would you like donate that 1 penny to save the starving children in Africa? And the woman's like, sure. And then they ring a bell and let everybody in the whole place know that they just donated. I'm like, but it's a fucking penny. Like, if
Yeah.
I want to donate money to a charity, I'm going to do it and not have to worry about taking pictures of it. Like me and a certain person on Facebook that became like we would say a celebrity kind of, I guess, when it comes to bodyguarding, if you can catch my hint here without saying the name.
I think I know. You might have to tell me after, but I
I'll
think I
tell
kind of know
you
where you're
after.
going. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
it's always I'm constantly seeing on Facebook posting up pictures of like, oh, I donated these pizzas to the medical industry to help them out. Everyone's like, you're such a good person. And he's like, pray, pray, pray. I'm like, but I know you're doing it for the attention. Like if I'm going to donate, I'm going to do it without letting people know. And at the same time, I'm going to find a rare ass charity that doesn't get any donations. Like one, like
Yeah.
you've heard of spinal bifida. What about like people without feet?
Yeah.
Who donates to the people without feet? I will donate them so many shoes. That's
Hopefully you don't donate them shoes.
terrible. Maybe
Kind of
lots
be a
of
dick move.
lots of gloves, lots of gloves.
Yeah, lots of gloves. There we go.
But I mean, I feel like the world, like you look at it today, like are you kind of fearing about what it's going to be like in the future a little bit? Like because I'm looking at it
Oh,
from
yeah.
like, you remember Don't Mess with the Zohan when that movie came out?
Yep, I do remember that.
We're like 12, 14. That came out in like 2008. That was
Yeah.
12. That was 12 years ago. Like
I do kind of worry about like that. 'Cause are you going more with like the PC route with everything
the
and
PC
changing?
route, everything, the world is just turning into like we've switched creativity for branding. Like everything's got to
Yeah.
be, I want this because it says this on it. I want that because it says this on it. I'm like, man, dude, like the world's just turning into this dark little thing where I'm like afraid for any future. Like my little nephew, for instance, I'm looking at him and he's like, oh man, thank God the Uber guy could put my bike in his car. I'm like, fucking what? He goes, it was raining out. I almost had to bike home in the rain. I'm like, what? Like we all had to bike home
Yeah.
in the rain.
That was some of the best memories of being outside in the rain and getting rained on with your friends and everything. It's not like, yeah, I think kids do have way too much technology and too much safety nets, and everybody kind of wants to change everything to kind of appease everybody, and which kind of just isn't how the world works. And I think that's kind of it's going to be an issue, and you really can't make everybody happy, and that's what everybody's trying to do, and it's kind of taking away some of the culture and some of like the fun aspects we had of growing up.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of those moments were teachable moments too. Like cartoons used to be a hell of a lot better, I can tell you that. I mean, you look at everything on TV
Yep.
now, I'm like, where's the deep meaning? Like SpongeBob had some meaning to it. Jimmy Neutron had some meaning. Johnny Bravo had meaning to it.
Yeah. And you look at the cartoons now, and you're just like, what the fuck am I watching?
Exactly.
It's just like colorful pictures and it's like bright colors and like they don't really say anything. They kind of just go on these random weird adventures that don't really give you any detail of what they're doing. They kind of just do things like, look, you did it. You saved Munchkin Land or whatever the hell you're doing. And you're like, but why?
I try and look at like what stuff we could bring back, because I mean we're all about throwing stuff back now. You're seeing like Dungeons and Dragons, all these old things that kind of got left behind started to become so popular. Superheroes are becoming a major thing. Where back in the day that would have seen as nerdy. But like
Yep.
I look at like what could we bring back to maybe correct some of the, I guess, millennialness that's out there. Because I mean I get it. I get it. You're trying to make up for past mistakes and trying to make a better future. But it's like, at the same time, where's the fun? Everybody's too worried about like, what is this person going to think of me? I'm like, what's happening? We're at a bar game or beer fest, whatever.
Yeah. Well, you were a fan of The Office, right?
I actually just started watching it. Like, no joke. Like, probably a week ago, I started the first season. I'm on season 5 now.
Okay. Great show, right?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When
Okay.
Dwayne cut the CPR dummy's face off and put it on his face and went, or did that whatever the sucking noise, I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god.
That show has great moments in it, especially in the first couple seasons. Like season 5 starts to taper off. Season 6, when Michael leaves and everything like that, kind of goes downhill. But like,
Thanks for the spoiler alert.
yeah, it's not a big spoiler. It's not the last time I've seen him. I promise that.
You had about 10 years to watch it.
Yeah, it is over now. But boy, what happened? So they asked Steve Carell because they were talking about doing an Office reboot, and everyone was kind of excited for it. And they were like, "Would you be willing to come back and do the Office reboot?" He said no. He was like, like the kind of humor and comedy that he had during The Office, like that wouldn't fly today. Like you watched the episode where they did uh, they did like the this day or whatever, and everybody put like those different signs in their head. That would not fly today.
They say a lot of things about gay, and if you
Yep.
ever seen Don't Mess with the Zohan, they use the word fag probably 30 times in like the
Yep.
first 5 minutes, and they're putting hummus on everything. And Dave Matthews was a racist redneck. Nobody even mentioned that. Like, it was like a funny type of racism where it was like, I'm going to make fun of myself, so where people watching it would be like, look, you can't even take this guy seriously. Look how much of an idiot he is. That's how they did it. But even that couldn't get blamed today. But I do give you credit for one show that you did introduce me to, which I fucking love. And it is the most awkward show from the UK. And I think you know what it is.
We're talking about In-Betweeners?
Yes. Dude, when you showed me that episode at the water park where the freaking poop hits him in the face, they opened me up to a whole new show, dude. I watched the movie when it came out, the second one, I think, where the kid falls asleep in the anthole.
Yep.
It is the most awkward, like, perfect comedy. Like, even laughing, you're like, ha, 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 because it's just, like, awkward as hell. Like, imagine, like, it's those cringing moments you get through middle school.
Exactly. I think it's kind of funny to watch it because, like, that whole show, you really don't see them succeed that much, but, like, you get all those times where you're like, yeah, this happened to me, and that, like, happens. And it kind of just brings you back to the time where, like, that was just kind of funny and acceptable to kind of be joking around like that with your friends. And, like, now, like, if you do that, like, might not end up well for you, you know?
It actually had us thinking of a road trip to take. Me and you were talking about getting a bunch of people together and going like on like a summer vacation, senior week type thing.
We did talk about that. I do remember this kind of like vaguely. It's going back though. You're putting me back in my memories like a while.
Well, this is where it all starts. This is where the when you met me was when the downgrade started to happen, I would say. Well,
I won't say that.
It makes me think though, like for, when you're expecting like twins right now. So before your kids happen, do you have a plan to go do something before that day? Like before it's like, oh, I have to be a dad now.
I kind of just been sitting here preparing for it. I do want to kind of go back and like take like a week to go visit everybody in Maryland, like go see some of the old friends like I haven't seen, like go see you, for example. We haven't caught up in a while, and it's kind of been making me think. And like, I do apologize. I haven't been great at keeping up all these years, and that's kind of the one thing I do regret like a lot. And I think that's going to be like kind of my thing, is going and visiting all my friends and everything, because everything's still kind of shut down, but I can still kind of go and see people and go out and talk to them. Because there have been people like I've been meaning to keep up with, and time's been crazy, and like getting through college or anything's kind of just So
yeah, I mean, I'm not the best at keeping up with people either. Like Snapchat was like the closest thing, and I just stopped going on that in general. I think the main thing for me is like I just wanted to travel. I wanted to go somewhere out of this town and experience more, go on vacations. All the vacations I missed to Vegas and Hawaii because I didn't want to miss the gym. I'm like, shit, dude. I want to go to like all these people I've met through the podcast. I want to visit out there. I want to, meet everybody in person. I've only met one of them so far in person. He happened to be from Baltimore, And we did a video or whatever, like in person. It was like before the 90 days. But I'm like, dude, when you come down, we got to have a crab feast or something. We got to sit and enjoy a nice
Oh,
bushel of
please.
crabs.
No, we don't get crabs like we used to down. Like, New Jersey doesn't have any of that. We don't even have Old Bay up here.
Surprised you went
I'm
to
missing out.
Jersey.
She still got a little bit of school left, and twins coming, so it kind of just made sense kind of for me to pick up and move here, so she can kind of manage like figuring out school and everything like that. And she's kind of still at home, so we're actually living at her parents' house right now, and it kind of just makes everything kind of easier on us being here because we do have that support system behind us. And I mean, ideally, I would have personally liked to stay back there, but it made more sense for both of us to actually be here.
Do you feel like if you could travel anywhere, where would you go?
Oh, I've been saying this for a while. I really want to go to like Australia or like Iceland even.
Why Iceland out of all the places?
I think Iceland just would be like a nice natural beauty. Go visit the geysers. There's a lot of gyms up there, especially being CrossFit. Like Iceland's kind of home to some like the best athletes, and I do want to
Yeah,
go visit some of those gyms up there. But like Iceland's just beautiful.
that
Well,
Games
like
of
they have some of the
Throne, that Games of Throne guys from there.
yeah. Bjorn Thornton.
Neil Thornton, whatever. I thought you're an Arnold fan.
Or
He's from Germany.
he's from Austria.
He's from
Arnold, right?
Austria?
Yeah.
You're telling me
Yep. He
the
was
Terminator is Australian?
not
Austria.
Australian. Austria.
It's all the same thing. I bought a
Yeah, Germany.
map, and the only way I can tell where Canada is it's right above us. But any other location, I'm just like, somewhere over by the southern hemisphere. It's like, that's Antarctica. That's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it would be a nice place to visit. But definitely Australia one day was always kind of on my bucket list to kind of go there. They have a lot of history, and they have a lot of nice things I would like to visit, like Sydney Opera House, kind of go see like the Outback and go travel around there. And I've always wanted to go through Europe too, but
So this brings up a really good point. What did you say, like, even discovering like the in-betweeners or discovering like a lot of the stuff that's UK influenced just comes a lot from your dad too? Because like I would have never stumbled across a show like that.
some of it does kind of stem from like my parents being British, but I think a good portion of it really comes from like just kind of like seeing it and like it's like oh like the In-Betweeners. I actually discovered the movie first, and then I was like, oh shit, these guys have a TV show. And I kind of started watching the TV show, and that's how I got into it. But there are things that I've actually seen from my parents and through them that were like old British shows and everything like that. That kind of wouldn't have been like Doctor Who. It became very Americanized, but like even before it was popular and like the Americans kind of found out about it, like that was always kind of like the show me and my parents watched. So I'd say it's kind of like a nice 50-50 split. So I do get a little bit of both kind of things.
Did you ever think it was weird coming to my house and it was a completely different like household dynamic? I always wondered that because like for me it was like there was nobody there. You could just do whatever you wanted really. And then like switching over to like going to your house or something, it was like, oh, like you have to do this proper. You have to make sure you're very, sanitized and clean and kind of orderly.
Yeah, that's always been my dad though. I do think like going over to my friends' houses were always the fun parts because it was like you don't have to do it. We like when we went to your house, we just kind of went out and like we would go walk around in the middle of the night, kind of just go through Ocean City. We went to the boardwalk one time and everything, just in the middle of the night.
My dad asked me about that recently. He goes, did you ever think I gave you too much like freedom with just letting you be out at 2:00 in the morning and just going out and basically walking around Ocean City, not knowing where you would be? Because I never feared about it because you always came back like on time. Like I never had to worry. I was like, I think it's because you didn't restrict me at all. Like the whole factor of saying like my dad would go out to DJ at night, so he wasn't
Yeah,
home. But it was like you need to be in the house by 10 p.m. door locked. No, it was none of that. So it was like just come home. And then, like,
yeah,
I would. Like, I remember one time I went out, like, at, like, 3:00 in the morning, and that's when I discovered foxes are in Ocean City. I had no freaking clue.
yeah. I do think you kind of, and I mean, it molds us into who we are, and I think that you having that responsibility. I mean, some people would definitely take advantage of it, but you kind of were like very respectful with it. Where it was like, hey, I'll let you do what you want, just don't get in trouble. And you were like, all right,
It only had me at one moment. My dad was like, I need you to stay in the house. And I'm like, why? And I was just playing Dead Island, like the video game zombies and all that. And it
yeah,
happened to be the same time the night where the dude ate the person's face on bath salts.
yes,
My dad lost it, like, was like, dude, you're staying in the house tonight. I'm like, what's going on? He goes, did you hear about this? And he tells me about this. I'm like, dude, I'm playing Dead Island. This is so ironic. Like, this is so weird. And he just goes, that's not what you should be worried about. Like, just I don't want your face being eaten. I don't know what people are
Yeah,
doing right now.
I remember when that was like a thing because it happened to a couple people down in New Orleans, right?
Why? All right. I love New Orleans. I really do. But they have a thing out there called ponyists. Do you know what a ponyist is?
No, but I feel like I'm gonna be very scared when you tell me.
You remember Spencer?
Yes.
Okay. Well, these people take it to the extreme with My Little Pony, but they actually dress up as ponies, like in gimp outfits, and they let other people whip them and ride them and go through obstacle courses like you would train a dog.
Oh, I have seen that. They have actual competitions for that. Like,
Only in America.
yep,
The
we
land of
embrace people like that.
opportunity. Land of opportunity.
Hey, if that's what they want to do, my whole philosophy on life is that, hey, if it doesn't like bother me in a negative way, like go do it. I've never been opposed to people with like gay marriage or anything like that. Just it's not hurting me if they want to get married. It's not hurting me if they want to go dress up as ponies and get whipped.
I'm
You
just
know?
like, it doesn't bother me. It's just I look at it like, why would you enjoy that? But then like you see videos on like Pornhub or whatever, and it's like some dude getting his nuts stomped. You're like, why would you enjoy that? And it's like, I guess people's like senses or whatever happens, like we talk about life experiences, molds us into the people we are today. That's what
Yep.
happens. You get a guy on Craigslist willing to come to your house and punch you in the balls for $10. I proved Mr. Krantz wrong. I showed him. I was like, this is a guy on Craigslist that'll come to your house and hit you in the nuts. He goes, I don't believe you. I showed him. He's like, I don't think I have faith in humanity anymore. I'm like, there are people out there getting paid.
Yes. And it is very weird these days because we kind of just embrace everything now.
Everything's
And
accepted.
yes.
Is that good
And
or bad when it
some of it
comes to
scares me
nuts?
though.
Yeah, I was about to say, is it good or bad when it comes to nut stomping?
I mean, as long as I don't have to pay someone to come to my house and stomp on my nuts, I'm kind of okay with it.
Would you watch it?
No. I think I have enough videos from like AFV and back in those days to watch people get hit in the nuts with stuff.
That's where the pain videos came from. I feel like it was funny to watch someone accidentally get hit, and then eventually it turned into this thing where people were trying, like Jackass, like people were trying to hurt themselves. The next thing you know, it was like this big trend of who can jump off the roof.
Yep. Yeah, Jackass definitely maimed some people for sure.
I
Trying to
remember
recreate some of the stunts.
me and you tried to make a whole video series on it. Like, what's the best way to like do these funny stunts to get attention to become YouTube stars? And then you realize, oh, that's just not smart at all.
Yeah, it's by hurting yourself.
I do
Look at
give you
that.
I do give you another credit was you did whoop my ass in ping pong with one arm, which I was like, this is bullshit.
I only was able to use my left arm.
Yeah, but you still won.
My dad has always been good at ping pong, so that was kind of always the thing. Is like he would always play me and fucking serve me the ping pong ball, and it would just like spin. I would hit it and go off the table. I'm like, well, I don't want to play with you anymore, Dad.
Nothing better than when like you challenge your parents at something and they school the shit out of you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like I remember my grandma, for instance, she didn't tell me she was a professional bowler. So we went bowling, and I'm like, I'm gonna beat you guys. I've been bowling. I've been getting like close to perfect games. I start bowling. I'm like 162 was my end score. It was terrible. She got close to a perfect game, just missed the last strike. She got a spare.
Yeah.
But like everybody was crowding around. She's like, "Oh, I used to be a professional." She's like, "I used to be a professional bowler." And I'm like, "What do you mean a professional bowler?" She's like, "I got trophies and all." And I'm like, "You almost got a perfect game." She goes, and walks away. I'm like, "What the hell? What do you like?" I want to ask my parents, "What are you hiding from me?" Like, if you could look through your parents' life, what would be one thing you'd be surprised to learn about
Oh, that was a great question. Uh, yeah, I don't know because I think my parents have told me a lot about it. My mom not so much. Like my mom always talked about like she used to like dabble in like tennis or whatever, and like I never knew if she was good at it. So maybe that. My dad always boasted himself up about soccer, but he always backed it up and always had like those like family games of soccer that would go on in like the community. And he would go there and just kind of fucking make like 10 goals from midfield, and you're like, all right, well, all right, you're not lying, but I don't know. I definitely would like to see when they were like teenagers and kind of like see how they dealt with the things growing up. Because I mean, it was completely different than America. I mean, it's England. Like, I don't know exactly how that culture shift would affect it too, but like, kind of be interesting to see how they were like, what sports they did, and like that kind of stuff, and like their jobs, and like I don't know. Kind of
You
going
end up
back on that part.
you end up going to the UK and figure out your mom's like the John McEnroe of tennis. Like she's just like a
Yeah,
pro. Like
mom's just sitting here like, yeah, I dabbled.
I dabbled a little bit. But like I heard from like this podcast was talking about how the parents only see the kids as their kids, never like an actual adult. Like what are they like outside, like without, being around, like, cause we never act the same way around our parents. Our parents would never act different, or they would never act as they would without us. You know what I mean? They act,
Yeah.
as a parent figure. I'm like, I wonder what it'd be like to go back in time to see our parents like at our age and wonder what they were like. Like, holy shit, this dude is doing 8 bumps of coke off this piano right now. Like, I can't believe this is the guy that told me to be in the house at 8:30.
Yep. Do you watch excuse me. Do you ever watch what was it? I think it was John Mulaney maybe, but he
John,
was talking. Yeah, all right, famous comedian, but he was talking about it, and he was like, I might be wrong, and someone might correct me on this, but he talked about it. He was like, this guy's gonna be a father. He was like, 3 weeks ago, I watched this man try to fuck a bowl of macaroni and cheese, and he's going to be a dad.
that guy's a dad.
Yeah, and he was like, to this day, this guy is probably a dad out there, and he has probably multiple kids now. But I remember being in high school with him or in college and watching this man try to fuck a bowl of macaroni and cheese.
Man,
You don't know what your parents do, and like they probably have done crazy stuff like that. They're never gonna tell us though.
that's what really like is crazy about with like everything we have now with technology, being able to like have phones out every second. It's like everything that you do is a picture or it's recorded. So it's like our kids are going to have a mass amount of information on us.
Yep, they want to find it, they'll be able to.
Hey, Dad, remember episode 236 when you talked about the? Yeah, I do remember that. Yep, I shouldn't have said that one on air.
Yeah, for you, you're gonna be able to. Your kids will find everything out about you.
Well, my
They're
parents are radio broadcasters, so I'm like, let me just go back to some of these broadcasts you start talking about. It's like I could always tell, like when I was a kid and I tuned into the radio, if my dad was pissed off about something, he goes, "My son did that." I'm like, "Oh shit, here we go. This is him venting right now. This is him going
yep.
off about something I did."
How was that for you, growing up with parents being able to do that, and like kind of, I guess you weren't so isolated to like being out there on the radio and stuff like that because your dad and I mean your parents worked in radio broadcasting.
Yeah, I mean, I had the opportunity to do that, but I just wanted to do something where I can build it up from the ground. I think there's something about that where building it up
Yeah,
from the start is turning it into something.
yeah. I think it was interesting because especially like when you first told me you were creating a podcast, like how did you think that was going to go, and how kind of did that go for you, and kind of the whole journey for you to where you are now?
Man, it's
And I'll
flipping.
throw
You
I'll
throw
throw
me.
another question at you too. What's one thing that you would do differently if you could go back and kind of restart the podcast? Like anywhere longer journey, was one thing you would do differently?
I don't know, because I think I've been doing it exactly how I want to do it for the longest time. I think I
Hmm.
would definitely, yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I'm doing it exactly the way I want to do it, and I wouldn't regret anything but the phone call that I got before that started this thing from Brooks, really kind of set in my way of how I wanted it to be. Like, don't have any restrictions. If somebody wants to sponsor me, but they don't want me to say this, then that's a no for me. It's
Yeah,
the big one.
that's true. I mean, from what I've seen, from what I've been hearing too, you've been very successful with your podcast. So, I mean, I don't blame you for not wanting to really change anything.
False news, fake
Nah,
news. This
that
is
ain't fake.
We're not sponsored by Pepsi for this ad either. I don't know why I was holding that up like that. We're sponsored by Jack Skellington because that's the coffee mug you've been drinking out.
Yes, Jack Skellington is definitely a sponsor of the show. And if you get in trouble for that, I apologize. I don't know if you will.
No, I don't get in trouble for anything. I've gotten in trouble enough in my life. I missed all those recesses trying to rewrite the dictionary because Miss Cohut thinks she's awesome, and she's not.
I remember Skullhut.
I know.
That name sparks memories.
That name sparks fear to my heart.
Yes, I do not have great memories of that name.
Well, Tyler, dude, I appreciate you coming out and doing the podcast, man. I think I've used
Yeah,
up
man. Thanks
enough.
for having me.
I've used up enough of your time, but dude, definitely when you come down, we need to chill, talk a little bit off air
Yeah.
too. But is there anything you want to promote? Anything charity? Nothing? You want to give a link out there to your fitness
Ah,
page?
nah, nothing really. I mean, you guys want to follow me? T Marriner Fitness, TMARRINER Fitness. And man, thank you for having me. We definitely have to keep in touch. I really do apologize for these years kind of been being distant, but I would like to change that because we always had great times.
So you said T Mariner Fitness, like the bird.
Yes.